A low rumbling secret can haunt a dynasty for years, and the Carter family has been living with one that refuses to settle. Every time the chatter about Jay-Z's alleged firstborn threatens to erupt, a new tour, a fresh venture, or a headline-grabbing partnership seems to wipe the blogs clean. Yet this time, the storm didn't blow over. A New Jersey judge quietly signed an order that forces Shawn Jay-Z Carter to answer, on the record, whether Ramir Satterthwaite is his son. The deadline is July 18th of next year. That single date, circled in red on a courthouse calendar, could rewrite hip-hop history, shatter a billion-dollar brand, and pry open decades of buried paperwork. Most stories about secret children fade because the money or the NDA eventually calms the heat. But Ramir never wanted hush money. From the moment his mother, Wanda, whispered that the rapper she met at 16 might be his dad, Ramir only asked for one thing: a fair DNA test, administered by an independent lab, no strings attached. He never got it. Instead, he ran into judges who recused themselves without explanation, clerks who said files were misplaced, and attorneys who slipped mysteriously from the case after late-night phone calls. Every roadblock had the faint smell of influence, expensive influence. And Ramir learned fast that power isn't just a thing you have, it's a thing that follows you into every courtroom. The earliest attempt to confirm paternity dates back to the late 1990s, long before Jay-Z married Beyoncé, long before Roc Nation was a sports and film empire. Wanda's original filing was tossed on a jurisdictional technicality. The court ruled she'd sued in the wrong state. She didn't have the resources to try again, and by the time Ramir turned 18, the window for mandatory acknowledgement had almost closed. That's when a new strategy emerged. Instead of chasing family court, Ramir's team would chase the procedural misconduct itself. They argued that documents had been sealed without cause, that hearings were scheduled with neither side present, that evidence was boxed and shipped to storage before any ruling was issued. One misfiled motion could be an accident. 8 or 9 starts to look like design. For years, it was easy to dismiss those claims. Conspiracy talk is cheap online, and Jay-Z's lawyers knew it. Any blog that speculated too loudly got a cease and desist, and the bigger outlets wouldn't touch the story without public records. Then, the first crack appeared. An appellate brief, unsealed by mistake, revealed that Carter's legal team insisted he had no residential or business interests in New Jersey. That sentence sounded harmless, until Ramir's side located a decades-old lease agreement linking the rapper to a condo in Trenton. Enter 50 Cent, the hip-hop world's favorite disruptor. When he smells vulnerability, he turns it into content. A single post on his Instagram, Ramir's childhood photo beside a smirking Jay-Z meme, rocketed the paternity suit back into trending territory. Memes flowed faster than motions. 99 problems, but a swab ain't one. Big pimpin' or big parentin'? Hashtags that once lasted minutes suddenly sat at the top of X feeds for days. Algorithms don't care whether the rumor is proven. They care that people keep looking. And people did, especially when Nicki Minaj joined the chorus, sharing 50's post with a cryptic, "To God be the glory" caption. In the attention economy, that was gasoline on dry leaves. Nicki's followers immediately revisited old grievances with Roc Nation. They resurrected archived tweets, resurfaced interview clips of Nicki complaining about industry hands blocking her releases, and replayed footage of her husband's legal woes. Woes that some believe were amplified by enemies in high places. Every theory found a new target. Desiree Perez, Roc Nation's CEO, whose 1990s cooperation with the DEA is public record. Live Nation executives who control arena bookings. Even Beyoncé, rumored to have told insiders, "Tell that boy to go away." Whether Beyoncé ever uttered those words is impossible to confirm, but the mere suggestion painted her as an active gatekeeper, not just an uninvolved spouse, but a silent fixer. Ramir's godmother, Lily Colley, added fuel with allegations of intimidation. She spoke of strangers knocking at her door at midnight, asking to chat about a settlement. She described a shadowy figure offering to pay college tuition if Ramir stopped the nonsense. Those stories sound cinematic until you remember how reputations are actually protected. Not with overt threats, but with perfectly timed favors. Need a medical bill handled? Done. Need studio equipment? Delivered. All you must do is sign the NDA and forget you ever claimed relation to hip-hop royalty. But Ramir didn't forget, and he didn't sign. Instead, he documented every odd coincidence. The day after his attorney subpoenaed Carter's 1992 travel logs, someone fired 3 shots through Ramir's parked sedan. That evening, he posted photos of the bullet holes on Facebook under the caption, "Won't stop me." Skeptics called it staged. Supporters called it proof. Police listed it as property damage and moved on. When he requested bodyguard footage from a New York building the following week, the hard drive had already been reformatted for building maintenance. Each missing record looked trivial by itself, yet together they outlined a pattern you couldn't unsee. While social feeds bubbled, Jay-Z remained publicly silent. His team filed brief after brief, pointing to venue clauses, statute of limitation quirks, and jurisdictional pitfalls. One filing argued Ramir lacked standing because Robert Graves, the man originally on the birth certificate, had not formally joined the suit to disclaim paternity, despite the fact Graves already proved he wasn't the father with a court-approved DNA test. The legal gymnastics didn't sit well with the latest judge, who finally wrote, "The court will no longer entertain derivative motions that do not advance the central question of paternity. Translation, take the test or justify, under oath, why you will not." The order landed on Jay-Z's counsel on a Thursday afternoon. By Friday morning, entertainment journalists were calling it the reckoning. Some analysts predicted a quiet backstage settlement before the holiday weekend. Others noted a new clause. If Carter fails to respond by the July deadline, the court can enter a default judgment, which could include automatic parentage, backdated support, and, most explosive, permission to unseal every prior filing. In other words, the secrets he fought to keep sealed could become public record in a single pen stroke. That possibility scared more than just Team Carter. If those documents surface, they could expose the machinery of influence. Which judges recused themselves after which campaign donations, which court reporters left suddenly for private opportunities, which phone numbers show up on midnight call logs. It could even brush against the edges of a darker rumor, the so-called transport scheme some blogs whisper about, claiming a network of chauffeurs moved underage girls across state lines for club after-parties in the early 1990s. There is no formal indictment on that accusation, but it hovers like smog over the cityscape of hip-hop's golden age. And this is where Beyoncé's rumored involvement becomes more than gossip. She's not cited in any legal document, yet her indirect power is undeniable. A single like from her Instagram can double a designer's quarterly revenue. An icy silence can starve a story of oxygen. Critics say she leveraged that silence to suffocate Ramir's narrative. Supporters argue she's merely protecting her children from hurtful headlines. Either way, when fans found an old clip of Beyoncé's mother confirming Jay owned New Jersey property in the 90s, the very detail his lawyers denied, the Beehive felt an uncomfortable twinge. If Mama Tina's memoir contradicts the official line, what else doesn't match? While high-stakes lawyers draft responses, Ramir's life remains painfully ordinary. He works part-time in a Philly studio, engineering demo tracks nobody has heard. He uploads freestyles to SoundCloud that max out at 300 listens. Every check he writes to cover filing fees could have bought new mixing software. Every hour he spends on phone calls with paralegals is an hour he can't spend chasing music placements. He jokes that he's the only rapper who prays for a swab instead of a record deal. But the toll is visible. Dark circles from late-night strategy sessions, a wary glance whenever headlights slow outside his house, a perpetual worry that another random traffic stop will end with his trunk searched for something someone else planted. People ask what he wants if a test confirms the bloodline. He says he wants an acknowledgement in writing, a handshake if it's offered, maybe grassroots funds to open a youth music program in West Philly. The internet replies with side-eye emojis.
Bruh, you be heir to $1 billion.
He shakes his head. $1 billion came from his hustle, not mine. I just need truth. His camp insists that back support beyond the statute would be legally unenforceable anyway. Still, bloggers salivate at imaginary inheritance figures. 40 million, 80 million, a secret trust bigger than Blue Ivy's. Each number spins another clickbait headline. Each headline drags the case deeper into spectacle. Meanwhile, 50 Cent continues his instigation tour. He uploads a photoshopped Father's Day card, Jay-Z smiling over the words, "DNA is forever," and tags Nicki with a laughing emoji. Nicki responds with a Bible verse about hidden things coming to light. Within an hour, both posts trend higher than any official Carter project that week. Fans who once ignored Ramir's name now flood his DMs with encouragement, armchair legal advice, and unhinged conspiracies about Beyoncé cloning Blue Ivy. Ramir screenshots the well wishes, ignores the madness, and forwards credible tips to his lawyer. All the while, the music industry stares at an unspoken nightmare scenario. Jay-Z in a deposition chair, answering under oath about a relationship with a 16-year-old. Streaming giants worry about public perception blowback. Sponsors for upcoming tours wonder if they need moral turpitude clauses tightened. Even Rock Nation athletes gauge whether the scandal might splash onto their jerseys. That's how a personal paternity suit morphs into a corporate crisis. Every partnership Jay built is now tethered to a ticking courtroom clock. And what if the test proves he isn't the father? Some say the damage is already done. The contradiction about New Jersey property will still exist. The sealed transcripts will still raise eyebrows. The rumors of intimidation won't dissolve just because the DNA didn't match. In a culture that prizes transparency, at least rhetorically, cover-ups often sound worse than the original offense. A man can survive an old fling. It's harder to survive the perception that he bullied a young family for 20 years to hide it. Yet the alternative outcome, a positive test, would be seismic. Imagine the tabloids on day one. Jay-Z, 55, confirmed father of 31-year-old musician. Billion-dollar estate now in question. Imagine Beyoncé's next public appearance, cameras zooming on her expression for hints of betrayal or magnanimity. Imagine Blue Ivy scrolling TikTok to find half-siblings trending above her Ivy Park campaign. Dynamics inside the Carter household, once shielded behind ironclad NDAs, would suddenly be raw material for every gossip columnist on Earth. In the middle of that hypothetical maelstrom sits Ramir, a man who spent more than half his life hauling file boxes into courthouses older than his alleged father's first platinum record. He isn't naive about what could follow. New cousins might resent him. Old friends could sell text messages for profit. A single slip of the tongue could spawn lawsuits in the opposite direction. Still, he says, truth is lighter to carry than doubt. He would rather bear the weight of awkward reunions than drag another decade of unanswered questions. There is one group that rarely gets mentioned yet has the most to lose. The legal professionals who may have bent process to curry favor with Team Carter. If depositions reveal phone calls arranging courtesy continuances, clerks who misplace evidence, or campaign donations tied to docket assignments, careers could end overnight. Judicial misconduct investigations move slowly but cut deep. Judges stripped of the robe seldom recover the prestige. It's one thing to disappoint a single litigant. It's another to undermine public faith in the entire court. Which brings us back to July 18th, 2025. It's just a date on a docket. Yet everyone, from Rock Nation executives to barbershop debaters, has circled it. When that morning arrives, reporters will refresh case portals, bloggers will draft breaking banners, reactors will cue their live streams. If Jay-Z's lawyers file a last-minute motion to stall, analysts will dissect the fine print like a Drake verse. If they walk into chambers, with a willingness to test, social timelines will explode. And if they miss the deadline outright, the judge may press unseal, turning whispers into exhibits. Until then, the chessboard stays crowded. Beyoncé silently curates her next photo dump, careful to show twins Rumi and Sir, but never long enough for trolls to screenshot and speculate. 50 Cent schedules another Green Light Gang promo tour and jokes that he'll bring Ramir on stage for a freestyle. Nicki teases an unreleased verse that some swear contains coded bars about DNA kings. Desiree Perez issues a bland statement about Roc Nation's commitment to justice, though insiders say security at HQ has doubled. And Ramir? He takes the train to his studio job, rides past billboards of the man he might call father, and tries to write hooks, catchy enough to outrun his own headline. Some nights, he imagines the moment after a positive test. Cameras flashing, microphones thrust forward, everyone shouting the same question. What do you want now? He pictures himself breathing, steady, answering the way he rehearsed since childhood. I wanted the truth. Now we all have it. In that fantasy, he's not a claimant, not a meme, not a payout. He's simply a man whose story is finally his own, free of the blank space on his birth certificate. Whether that scene plays out depends on 365 days of legal maneuvering, public relations calculus, and ultimately, the courage of one of the most guarded figures in music to face a cotton swab. Truth, no matter how long it's delayed, has a way of finding daylight. Sometimes it appears in a lab vial in a county courthouse. Sometimes it appears as a single sentence in a judge's order. The defendant shall respond. The rest of us will be watching, and when the clock hits July 18th, daylight will decide what stays rumor and what becomes record.